Think back to your last routine checkup. You're sitting in the waiting room of your local family doctor, or maybe the neighborhood dentist you've been seeing for years. Everything around you feels completely familiar. The receptionist greets you by name, the same doctor asks about your kids, and the clinic's slightly faded sign still hangs out front. Then you get to the checkout counter, and you're handed a bill that stops you in your tracks. Out of nowhere, the cost of your standard visit has shot up by 30%. You also notice new charges. Services that used to be optional, like an extra blood test or a deep dental cleaning, were quietly folded into your visit as mandatory procedures. You might write this off as normal inflation, or assume the clinic had to raise prices to cover a hike in local rent to keep their doors open. That trusted local clinic is no longer an independent family-run business. It has been acquired by a Wall Street private equity firm. For decades, multi-billion-dollar private equity funds focused their wealth on buying up tech companies and giant retail chains. But with those massive targets mostly exhausted, they've turned their sights toward the most mundane corners of daily life. Wall Street cash is now quietly absorbing businesses you interact with constantly. They are buying up neighborhood elder care facilities. They are taking over local funeral homes. They are even acquiring local trades, like the plumbers and electricians who fix your sink. This expansion relies on a specific financial strategy known as a roll-up. Instead of building a new brand from scratch, a private equity firm buys dozens of tiny independent practices and stitches them together into a single corporate conglomerate. To maintain the illusion of a local business, they keep the original family names and branding exactly as they were. This ensures you walk through the door unaware that ownership has changed hands. You think you're supporting a small neighborhood business, but your money is actually feeding directly into a hidden, nationwide corporate monopoly. This raises a mechanical question. How do these firms manage to buy up thousands of local businesses without draining their massive cash reserves? They do it using a maneuver called a leveraged buyout, or LBO, a process where the buyer uses borrowed money to pay for the acquisition. This diagram shows how the LBO actually works on paper. When the private equity firm buys a clinic, they only use a tiny fraction of their own money as a down payment. To cover the rest of the purchase price, they borrow the vast majority of the funds from a major bank. The legal responsibility for paying back that massive bank loan does not stay with the private equity firm. The debt is immediately assigned directly to the local clinic itself. Overnight, a healthy, debt-free family practice is saddled with a massive corporate loan, complete with sky-high interest rates that it never actually asked for. To survive the crushing weight of these new loan payments, while still generating a profit margin large enough to satisfy Wall Street investors, the clinic has to change how it operates. The business is forced into two non-negotiable mandates: ruthlessly cut operating costs and aggressively squeeze more revenue out of every single patient. For the medical staff, this means the introduction of strict corporate quotas. Doctors who used to set their own schedules are now pressured to hit specific daily targets for procedures and checkups. To hit those volume numbers, the time a doctor spends with you is heavily restricted. Standard 20-minute consultations are slashed down to 5-minute windows. Behind the scenes, the clinic begins swapping in cheaper, lower-quality medical supplies, all while quietly pushing the prices you pay at the front desk to their absolute limits. When a medical practice is re-engineered to prioritize interest payments over patient health, we have to ask what actually remains of the. When billions of dollars in leveraged buyout debt are dropped onto a healthcare system, the priority shifts from patient recovery to mandatory repayment. Take the acquisition of a U.S. nursing home network by a private equity fund. The facilities are immediately responsible for the very debt used to purchase them. To service these high-interest loans, the home must extract cash from its daily operations, starting on day one. Management executes a standard extraction playbook. Nursing staff is reduced to the legal minimum, food quality is downgraded to cents per meal, and building maintenance is deferred. When every minute of care and every calorie served is measured against a debt-servicing spreadsheet, the residents' humanity is stripped away. They are processed like inventory, revenue streams scanned and optimized for skyscrapers thousands of miles away. This data compares outcomes for elderly patients. While independent facilities maintain a steady baseline, the mortality and accident rates in private equity-controlled homes show this sharp upward trajectory. These figures represent the literal erosion of human safety. Society's most vulnerable are worn down as their care is repurposed into the cash flow required to maintain a fund's credit rating. Under the logic of a leveraged buyout, the essential care facility is no longer a place of healing. It becomes a cash extraction engine where human life is traded for financial metrics. This financial logic is a highly adaptable global contagion. In emerging markets like Vietnam, the same mechanisms are currently being deployed to capture local healthcare. Large pools of capital are rolling up local dental chains, private clinics, and neighborhood pharmacies into massive centralized corporations. During the initial capture phase, these corporations use massive subsidies to offer flashy promotions and high-tech facilities. This localized price war is designed to bankrupt the surrounding independent competitors who cannot compete with institutional backing. Once the competition is gone, the trap snaps shut. The corporate clinic gains a local monopoly, and consumer prices begin a steady, permanent climb. This rapid modernization of local clinics is the mechanical setup of a trap. It is a deliberate restructuring of the market to ensure that consumer choice is systematically eliminated. The pressure to extract profit eventually perverts the internal culture of the clinic, forcing medical staff to abandon their ethical mandate. Ethical doctors find themselves ground down by corporate-mandated sales quotas, where the goal is to hit a revenue target rather than solve a patient's problem. As veteran doctors leave the profession, they are replaced by clinicians trained to function primarily as sales machines in white coats. This is the definition of modern rent-seeking. Wealth is not generated by providing a superior service, but by monopolizing an unavoidable human need and charging an entrance fee. Patients find themselves paying an inescapable toll to a financial institution every time they or their pets require essential medical care. Dealing with this system requires vigilance. You have to learn how to identify the specific signals that a local facility has been compromised by institutional debt. Watch for sudden, aggressive changes in pricing structures, or the introduction of membership tiers in a clinic that previously operated on a simple fee-for-service basis. Pay attention to the staff. If a long-tenured doctor suddenly disappears, or if the remaining clinicians seem rushed and focused on upselling unnecessary procedures, the business model has shifted toward extraction. These subtle operational red flags are the only way to see the invisible strings of corporate ownership before you are committed to a treatment plan. Protecting independent, family-run clinics in your neighborhood is a practical necessity for maintaining medical standards. Supporting these smaller providers acts as a defensive barrier against the expansion of soulless financial machines into your community. The most significant financial conflict of the 21st century plays out on the itemized lines of your everyday medical invoice. Every dollar spent is a vote. It determines whether you are supporting a professional practitioner or simply paying off the interest on a faceless investment fund's latest acquisition.